June said, putting the stole away in her bag. I can't get it to stay on my shoulders properly. It wasn't true, not at all, but I didn't challenge her little lie and watched as June became more and more bold, arching her back to highlight her otherwise not very large breasts and even deliberately slowly walking past illuminated store windows, fully aware that men were looking at her and her half-naked breasts. Oh my goodness, my shy little wife has become a bit of an exhibitionist, should I say a little. At first, the restaurant waiter couldn't take his eyes off June's chest area every time he served us, and then the bartender did the same. June sat for most of the evening with undisguised delight on her face. Several guys tried to talk to my wife every time I left her alone, but she quickly returned to me. They looked annoyed, and I liked it. They were looking at your breasts, June, I informed her. Yes, I know, John, she answered. Fun, isn't it? Actually, it was funny. It was a great evening. I discovered how exciting it is to see a whole crowd of men maneuvering to get a better look at my wife's breasts. I never thought I'd like it so much, but I did. I just never thought I would enjoy spending an evening with my previously unadventurous wife so much. Then, later back at our hotel, well, I could describe it, but it's a little personal. Let's just say that we reconsecrated our marriage in grand style. Damn, God, life has been great. The next morning, we headed back to the beach for our last full day of sunbathing. The sun was shining brightly, the sea was shimmering, and I had a beautiful and sexy woman on my arm. How could life be better? We walked down to the beach, wading through the sand until we found a spot that wasn't too crowded. June immediately stripped down to her little blue bikini and smiled at me. This bare-breasted thing started to become a habit. Oh God, she was beautiful. Her body was beginning to take on that beautiful light golden hue, like that of a young slender princess, naked except for a small strip of material hugging her graceful hips. I felt so happy that she was mine, my everything. You know that feeling when it feels like your heart is about to burst out of your chest with pride? You know, so am I. We sunbathed for a while, read, and joked with each other about some of the other people on the beach, imagining what they do in real life. It was almost perfect. I noticed a few passing men looking at my wife and her naked breasts, but this no longer bothered me, and of course, I even enjoyed it, quite happy that I had one of the most attractive girls on the beach that day. Do you want to go down to the water? June asked me calmly. Not necessary if you don't want to. I'll just finish this page, I told her. Go if you want. Okay, she replied, standing up and brushing off the sand. I'll just go down and take a dip in the sea for a while. Okay, I'll join you in a couple of minutes. Okay, she replied. I'll just go away for a while. See you in a minute. There was nothing special about this conversation, was there? I'll just go away for a while. See you in a minute. That homely phrase will come back to haunt us both. The problem is that I was deep into the latest Tom Clancy book I was reading and was desperately curious to see how the newest president would get out of his latest scrape. June left, and other than admiring her beautiful round ass as she walked away, I went back to my book. It might have taken 10 minutes, but I suspect it was longer. I read to the end of the exciting chapter and finally put the book down. Now, where is June? I sat up and looked around, eventually checking the edge of the water to see if I could spot her. No woman alone, but maybe she was in the water. Standing up, I looked up and down the edge of the water, trying to find her. I wasn't worried or anything, I didn't think she had drowned or anything. Then I saw a splash of blue, the same shade as her bikini. She offered no visible resistance, and I felt sick as I saw her bare breasts pressed against his bare chest and God knows what was pressing on her bare stomach. It was made worse when I saw him lean in and I saw quite clearly their lips touch, just for a moment, very briefly, but the damage was done. I walked in their direction, stopping when I realized our belongings were scattered all over our towels, our camera, June's wallet, all of it. So where are they? I felt a growing panic, my stomach tightened, and my pulse quickened. Eventually, I spotted 3 heads in the water about 20 feet from shore. Was it them? Was it them? I had no idea, but I rushed to the water to try and see what they were doing. By this time, they had reached the floating pontoon boat, which was anchored about 100 yards from the bay, and I watched in disbelief as one by one, they climbed onto it. 2 guys took June by the hand and threw her into the water. As she climbed back up, these rascals played, letting June push them to the edge only to dodge at the last moment, their hands carelessly sliding over her as she chased after them. When one of them finally allowed himself to be pushed out, the other grabbed June from behind and threw her to the floor of the pontoon. Shame on this. In desperation, I turned to 2 young teenagers who were diving into the waves as they crashed in. Glad they understood English, I almost begged them, "Can you swim to that pontoon for me?" "Oh oui, monsieur," they replied. "Pourquoi?" I explained to them that I wanted them to convey a message to the girl who was there, telling them to demand that she return to shore immediately, urgently. But that did not happen. My heart sank like a stone when I saw 2 young boys rush back into the water, chasing each other and swimming back towards me. What happened? I demanded, abandoning all attempts to speak to them in French. What did she say? "Girl, she doesn't say anything, monsieur," the first boy told me. "She was, as you say, otherwise busy." What? "The man asked me to give this to you," the second boy chimed in, handing me something so I could take it from him. "Oh hell no, please no, 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 please no." With tears of disappointment in my squeezed eyes, I took the tiny piece of blue fabric from him, gripping June's bikini bottoms angrily in my hand. "She has the same beautiful breasts as the girl," I heard one of the boys say. Oh my gosh, have you ever felt completely alone in a crowd of people? Well, that's how I felt at that moment, surrounded by happy revelers running and laughing and playing, and me there, miserable as sin, just wishing for a tidal wave to rise and swallow so many of us. I even considered trying to swim out there, knowing that if I drowned trying, bloody June would have to live with the consequences. But if I'm lucky that day, one of those damn frogs will probably dive in and save me, and how humiliating will that be, I ask you? I was about to turn away in disgust, but finally, I saw one of the men on the pontoon get up and dive into the sea, followed by June and his friend. I watched anxiously as the 3 heads bobbed up and down as they made their way back to the shoreline. I stood there impassively as the boys reached the beach first and watched as my new bride emerged like Venus from the surf. June slowly emerged naked, laughing loudly, calling out to her 2 new friends, running up to the big guy himself and hugging him, so attached to her little world that she was still oblivious to my presence just 10 yards away. They kissed, not for long, not long at all, but long enough. The sight of my wife naked in the arms of another man on a public beach made me want to puke. The sight of his hands,